Good evening and welcome everyone to Couples Talk. This is a new series created by my husband Joshua and myself, Sharlene, where we're going to talk about varying issues that couples experience during their relationship and marriage. Some of the topics will be in terms of personal development, how to enhance your personal development, health and wellness, motivational topics, as well as finances, which is a big topic. And to begin our series today, we're going to begin with budgeting. We're going to talk about budgeting in the home. So, Joshua, we're going to talk about what is budgeting.
Yeah. And one of the things we would have said in our episode we launched as a precursor to this, and I'm going to show you the link where you could get to that, is that not only do we believe in some of these things as Christians as well, I think it's one of the things that really made a difference in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we're going to be talking about really things that are common to everyone, we believe a key to our success is actually God. So even as we get into this series, we're going to say a quick word of prayer, and we hope that the rest will be a blessing to you. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity we have to come and share our experiences. May it be a blessing to someone. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
All right. So even as we said, we would have done a demonstration of how we go through some of our budgeting. We also have an Excel file that is available for you to download. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that video, or you're not sure where to find that download file, I'm going to show you very quickly. So if you go to our website, which is Vivid Resolution, I'm just going to share my screen. So if you go to Vivid Resolution, you will see
Vivid Resolutions.
So it's Vivid Resolutions. Thank you, sweetheart. You'll see a section here that says blog. Click on blog. When you click on the blog item, you will notice a series of blog that we would have done. So you're looking for this last one here that's talking about episode 1, budgeting. As you click on it, it has a video where we go through step by step how we went through the budget. If you come below, you'll see a section here that says download, right? Just click on that and you will get the Excel file, and you could follow along as we actually go through. Okay. So I'll turn back over to you so that we could get started in what we're discussing tonight, which is budgeting. So I think the first thing we want to discuss is
what is budgeting.
What is budgeting? So I'll let you lead from here, sweetheart.
So budgeting, in a simple definition, is the process of creating a plan to spend your money. Now, most of us, we get paid every month or we collect an allowance, but we don't really plan how to spend that money. We know we have bills, so we just go out and pay the bills. But budgeting involves planning to spend that money. And as I said, the idea of spending your money or planning to spend that money is referred to as budgeting. So when you create this plan, it allows you to determine in advance how you're going to spend the money during the month. So it kind of guides you what you're going to spend on or what you're not going to spend on, and what it is you can put off for a later date. So that's what budgeting entails. And budgeting, as we know, is in order to help simplify in terms of balancing your expenses with your income. We all have some form of income, and we have to determine how it is we're going to spend that on a monthly basis, not to overwhelm ourselves or to put ourselves in extra debt. So that's just an introduction in terms of what is budgeting.
So I know one of the first questions we wanted to ask and is, why don't people budget as a couple? Why don't people budget as a couple? And I think this is a key question, because we know how valuable it is. Many people know it's important. They might even have done it as an individual, but now you're together. You're a couple. You're living together. You're sharing expenses and so forth, but yet you don't budget. Why, Sharlene? What do you think? I have some of my reasons. What do you think are some of the reasons here?
One of the answers or results I got from persons when this question came up, because these questions are we going to be relating even as we go on to the series, were questions submitted by persons, even couples. And one of the things they mention in terms of budgeting is lack of communication. Persons don't talk about their finances in a relationship. I have my money, you have your money, but we don't talk about how to pay the bills. They just go forward and just pay the bills. Now, there's some issue there because who might pay it which month? Then there's also trust issues because it might be a case of I don't know what it is you're going to do with my money when you say let's work together. Now, if you're married, you have to be vulnerable with each other. You have to be able to share with each other, and finances is part of sharing with each other. And a lot of persons don't feel comfortable sharing with their pockets. Then we have those situations where somebody wants to control their partner. One might be making more than the other, one might not be working, might be home at the moment. And then, in terms of controlling that relationship, you hold on to the purse. So you determine what happens during the month. This person cannot ask you any question in terms of financing. So no budgeting takes place. All you know, money comes in either to pay the bills or no money comes in at all. And that can cause a breakdown in the relationship. It can even put you in more debt. What do you have to say?
And I want to speak from a man's perspective because I remember when I first started working and we got married, we now started living together. At the time, I was the main breadwinner. You weren't working at the time. And in theory, most men even want to do the right thing. We created a joint account. I shared money with you and so forth. But when it came now for us sitting on budgeting all the money, I started feeling like I'm losing some of my financial freedom. Like, why do I have to sit down and discuss with you how we spending all the money when I'm the one working for all the money? So I felt it was okay if I give you spending money and I help pay the bills, then the rest is mine. I mean, I think that was just fair, and so I think part of it is, I think for men, we don't want to lose that financial freedom. Just think for a second. One of my friends come and ask me, "Hey, Josh, lend me $500." I don't want to even give him the impression, well, I got to go home and talk to the wife before I give you five or lend you five when I have money. He might have helped me sometime in the past, and I felt a sense of obligation. I should be able to just tell him yes, even though it might have been okay just to say, hey, let me look at my finances and so on. But just as an ego, I just don't think I should have to tell you that. No, I've grown from there, but I could tell you that's how I felt. And I think that's how probably a lot of men feel, that especially if I'm working and this is my money, I don't think I want to have someone dictate how I spend that.
As in terms of some of the points I highlighted previously, trust issues, lack of communication. One thing we have to take into consideration when you're getting paid, you're collecting money, that you're in this together, that this is a joint union, a relationship, and finances is one of it. And you have to be intentional about communicating. You have to trust that person. You have to decide if you can't trust the person you're married with, you have a problem there because it's going to get worse after a while. And you would be surprised in terms of, you see, that communication, in terms of budgeting, you will save you a lot of hassle. You believe you'll actually have a lot more money in the end because when you're working together in terms of saving and budgeting, as we have realized over the years, is that we have a lot more money put aside because we're able to plan properly. We're able to organize and structure, have a system in terms of how we spend each month. And it has actually helped to increase our monetary value, our financial stability, and even our emotional stability in a relationship because now we can trust each other knowing that we want the best for each other, and finances is part of wanting the best for each other. That form of stability.
All right. The next question we want to discuss is, should couples split the bills 50-50? Or in other words, what is the best method to split bills? Sharlene, you go first. Yeah.
This particular question is what generated the discussion in the first place. This was asked by a few wives, and they had issues in terms of how do we manage or split the bills monthly. And a lot of times we have husbands who, what they indicated, did not want to split the bills or didn't think they had to be asked or they were to be instructed. So they didn't contribute unless some form of detrimental situation took place. And one of the things we learn even in situation with splitting bill is important to split the bills, because unless one person is extremely rich, we need to balance in terms of paying the bills. But the most important thing in terms of splitting the bills was 50-50 doesn't always work, because say Josh is making 10,000, I am making $5,000 a month. I mean, if we're going to split the bills 50-50, it might end up with only $1,000 left at the end of the month, and he might end up with $4,000. Then where does that leave us? Because we're both disgruntled, because he's happy with his 4,000, but I'm left with 1,000, or it could be vice versa, the wife making more money. So what we have learned is that having a percentage system in terms of budgeting and splitting the bill actually works well. So if your bill comes out to a particular percentage per month, we divide that based on the amount of money we make. So it seems evenly distributed. So even though one partner might be spending a little bit more in their salary, it weighs in terms of balancing how much you give and how much you're left with. So you don't feel overwhelmed that you're spending all your salary and the other person is not spending anything in their salary.
Yeah. You know, it's hard for me to answer this question without jumping ahead a little bit. And so I'm going to try not to preempt some of your other questions, Charlie. But I want to say it's, to me, I've come to realize it's in the spirit of how you do this. And I'll give you an example. What do I mean by that? Early in our career, I was working for an exceedingly more than you were working. I could have still paid all the bills, give you spending money, and still not be responsible for the future of our family because I wasted the rest of it. So, you know, splitting the bill is important, but it's important that you are working together. That's because there are going to be some months that we really don't split it 50-50. There's some months that you may say, hey, I will take care of this. Or I may say, you know what? This has come up and we have a discussion that your family needs some help. Hey, take care of your family needs there, and I will take care of that. So it might throw some of it out to the window, but it gets back to this method I found it has worked well. You know, it ensures that both of us feel important as part of the process that is going on. So as you rightfully said, even if I'm working for $10,000 and you're working for $5,000, and we recognize when we added up all of our bills that it come up to a certain amount, then it may mean that really I might be taking care of 75% of the bills and you're taking care of 25%, which means we still leave with the same ratio of monies for us to save, for us to spend. And you know, it's so important. If you look back at the budget file that we did, one of the things you'll see in that is that together we plan our long-term goals, our medium-term goals, or even the short-term goals. Because if both of you know you are planning towards the goals of the family, it doesn't really matter. At first, I thought it was more important that we have a joint account. Like that's the only way we could have felt a sense of, well, that's in the joint account, I have access to that. You know, if I don't have access to your account, you don't have access to my. I realize it's not.
It's much
that
more
important.
than that.
It's more about, are we in this together? And I think once we recognize that, it's not an issue, because here's the difference. We might have separate accounts today, but I know the PIN for your card. You know the PIN for my card. And banks, I don't know if that's an issue, but you know, she takes mine and she could take my card and swipe it, and I could take hers and go, because we know, and because, but we're not doing that without each other involved.
And that's where trust comes in.
Right. So one of the points that we want to share is that splitting the bill should be based on the amount of salary one makes. One suggestion would be to use a percentage formula. Again, look at the ratio of how both of you are earning, and try to use that as a gauge so that you could equally contribute towards the bills and contribute towards your investment. And that's key. I don't want to, you should not be planning simply to pay bills. And that's dangerous, because it means you are not addressing your goals, and that's one of the things we want to actually talk about next. Actually, so our next question.
What are your financial goals? What are our financial goals? When it is, we have a lot of financial goals.
Yeah,
We have a lot
yeah.
of financial goals.
And we grew into this over time. You know, we and this came from reading, recognizing that you have to think bigger.
Yes.
You must have goals that pull you forward. Otherwise, you will find yourself binging and spending on things that never amounts to anything. Um, so I'll tell you one of mine. I mean, I just came up and said I want us to own a rental property that will be part of our retirement. Do I know how we're gonna get that? No, but we started out saying this is one of our goals, and we're going to save towards it. Do we know fully how we're going to get there? But no, but this pulls us forward. This is what makes us decide together that hey, we can't eat out every night because how are we going to pay for that rental apartment we're trying to do together?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to decide. I can't spend all my money on these clothes because this is one of the goals we have together. And it's good to have individual goals, but it will be nice to you to have a family goal that both of you is invested in. Like we started out writing down. So we did an exercise where each of us write down our top 5 goals for each other without us there. Then we took the list
And compare
and we
it.
compare it. And what we noticed, a few things on that list. For example, one of our goals was to travel the world. We realized that both of us had that goal
That we both love
that we
traveling.
both loved together. So what we did, we created a line in our budget for traveling where both of us now save towards traveling so that we know this is a goal that we look forward to, that we could plan towards, and that we would get there. So anything else in your case? So I know one of the points you wrote here is that that may be planning for a house. It may be planning to travel, a new vehicle, retirement. I think it's critical to have goals. What about you, Charlotte?
Goals are important. Goals give you purpose. If you have no purpose in life, you feel as if you have no value. So goals, as he mentioned, helps to propel one forward. So having these goals in the short term, you want to, some person want to own a business. You have a plan to start a business. You don't have the money, but at least you have a plan, and that will help you propel you forward in order to plan to start this business. And one of my goals, which I have been motivated and pushed by others, do video blogging. So here is one of my goals being realized, where I am getting involved in video blogging. And this is my way to share the knowledge I have, share the experiences I have, and share the information I have with others who could learn something from what it is I have to offer. And some things are for monetary value, but some things are also because of passion. Some passions you can monetize it. Depends on how you go. But this is one of my passions that I decided I need to push forward with because I can see benefits in terms of video blogging. So that was one of my goals that I decided for 2021 I'm going to push forward with.
And how do you see having that financial goal impact the way you budget?
It allows me to be very conscientious in terms of how we plan. And it allows me to also not to spend widely. I can budget to buy clothes, but I'm not going to spend all my money on clothes. When I was younger, I would just go shop. I love clothes. I love shoes. Now I realize that I don't have to be buying all those clothes. I don't even have anywhere to go to wear half of those clothes I'm buying. I mean, they look pretty in the closet, but what am I going to do then? But I love traveling, and I can use that same money to save towards traveling. So therein, it allows me to realign my spending and realign my budgeting and my planning. So it, when you have those type of goals, it really puts you in a direction that allows you to be focused with an intent.
Excellent. So our next question, Charlene.
How are we planning for retirement? Well, that ties into financial goals as well, because one of the retirement that Joshua mentioned is that we want to have a rental property. and even part of our retirement, we want to travel the world. Well, in terms of the rental property, we need to make sure we have something to sustain us in terms of living after we reach retirement age, because not everyone is fortunate enough to get government pension.
Yeah.
And if you do, the government pension in our case would be about what, $3,000. If you're working for a salary of $5,000, $10,000, and that's your monthly income in terms of your expenditure and your saving, can you really see $3,000 is going to help you forward in terms of your living expenses? I think not. So you have to think bigger. You have to have purpose in terms of how you're planning, and having something to look forward to retirement, say in our case, a rental property, will help to guide us in terms of our financial stability, that even after retirement, we can still at least, if not living to the same standard we were living before retirement, at least similarly close. We can always adjust it, but at least it will give us some form of stability where we're not in debt in our old age.
You know, there's a term I took too long to figure out, which was investment, and also the difference between saving and investing. I was terrible at saving, much just investing, you know. And we all have, and I said it in our last recording as well. We all believe that we can't save. That's not true, you know. If you take a careful look at the way you live, the things that you spend money on, if you just cut back on 5%, not 50%, not if you cut back on 5% of that, and you take that 5% and put it in some form of investment portfolio. And these words sound big, but they're readily available. And I mentioned at least two of them last night. For example, Reutrin or UTC, income and growth funds and so forth. Each of these, you could start with $100. It's not outrageous. You don't have to start with no ridiculous money.
No, the equivalent of math, because a box of food costs $50.
Exactly.
So can you imagine not buying that box of food for at least 3 days out of the week? That's $150. You already have your monthly deposit for your investment.
And this is how this works. You take that $100 and you put that in that account. It's not easy to access, and this is the difference with a savings. You have a savings and you have a card and you could access it. You're going to take it out. It's very easy to take out. So you want to use an account that's not very easy to get access to. That means you got to go line up in the bank. You have to request it. You can't get it right away. Many times, by the time you go through all that, you'll find a solution. If you save that $100 once a month, if you save that every month, what you find is what you call compound interest. If you get 5% on that, then you get $5 interest. But the next time you get interest, it's going to be on 5. It's going to be $105. And that's the reality. Your compound interest is going to build up over time. And I learned that from you. Just putting aside a certain amount of money every single month, but don't just save it. Look at investing, and some of the best investment you could make is in yourself. Sometime in education, that you could even do a side business, have a second revenue stream. So it's not just about putting it in on a savings, but be wise. Don't take it out and just spend on the first get rich scheme. Consider what you want to do with it and then move from there. Right. So one of the points we wanted to share here, and Sharlene, you could go over that. We might have said some of it.
By creating long-term savings plan or varying insurances, for those who are interested in that, there are investments out there that one can sign up for. Builds interest while it saves. So as we mentioned, the UTC and the Reutrin, they build interest, quarterly interest, yearly interest. So at least on every dollar that you save, you make what, between 2 to, I think sometimes
I
go up
think
to
in some cases
5%.
I've done 8%. I've seen interest rates that would have gone up even higher. Of course, the market will fluctuate, but what you find, you don't panic. You because they invest in a wide variety of investment portfolios. It's fairly stable, and you're not going to be losing your money by the time the market it usually will balance back out. The last question we want to look at this evening, and we're gonna have a part 2 to this, because we found it was too much things for us to try to discuss in our half an hour, and our couple stock is going to be like 30 minutes. So this is the last one we want to look at, which is, how does making a budget cost anything?
Making a budget is free. The only thing it takes is time.
Yeah.
And trust me, the time that you're taking to plan this budget is well worth it. You'll see at the end of the month that you didn't waste your time and you didn't waste your money. Yeah.
I would say it's time, and it's also going to require being open. You may need to be a little vulnerable with each other. I would say the first months we were doing budget, it was an uneasy time, because again, it's something that you now have to get vulnerable with each other and ask real questions. Someone wants to spend on something, you need to be able to discuss that. A family member is having a tough time, and I may want to help my mother, or my father, or something like that, something that's dear to me, and we now have to reason with that. We now have to be able to share and say, this is a good idea, or can we do a little less, because remember, we need to do X. And that's really going to take you being honest and vulnerable with each other, and not just defensive and say, well, that's my mother or that's my family. Well, you don't want me to help my family. That's the part, I think, that it gets a bit interesting. But I find by we doing on a percentage basis of that, we have our own spending money. And that gives us some latitude that we could say, hey, I'm going to use part of my spending money this month to do X or do Y, or, I'm going to pull here or there. It's never rigid. The budget is not hard and fast, but it's a guide. And what it helps you to do is to stay focused on how you're spending your money. And as we mentioned, and look at the video we did with going through the example. No penny should be left unaccounted for. There should be no ad hoc miscellaneous money. You should have a certain amount of spending money you budget for. You should deal with your bills as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But you should use the rest of it to invest. All right. You should definitely use the rest of it to invest. So if you have any questions, again, leave it in the comment sections. We will take some of those comments as we continue to build on that. We're going to have our part 2 next week, Thursday, same time. Sharlene, you could probably share some of the questions we're going to be covering in part 2 of this budgeting couples talk.
Okay, so one of the questions we're going to talk about is how much debt is too much debt? Now, that sounds very interesting, right? Another question we have is how should I allocate my assets? Do I have an emergency fund, and how much am I saving towards it? We always have emergencies coming up. And last but not least,
all right, I think I might have missed that.
Oh, well, I guess that's it.
Yeah, I think we covered. I think we covered the.
I think we covered most of the
one.
questions on them. So this is what we'll be discussing in further details. So always remember, as a couple, to share, to talk, be vulnerable with each other. You decided to marry this person, to be with this person. It means that you're already decided to commit yourself to be vulnerable with that person. And finances, as I mentioned, is not excluded in that discussion. And it will save you a lot of hassle and debt, because unfortunately, even if you don't discuss, remember, you're still liable by law for this person's debt. So you don't want to be in that situation. So save yourself the hassle, discuss, talk, plan, budget. You're going to be surprised how much you save. Yes.
All right. For me, I think my closing thoughts, and I think, Sharlene, you touched on several of those. Budget also protects you. It protects you from yourself. And there are times I am someone, I'm always scrolling through Amazon. I see the next new gadget. And I'm quick to spend.
Yes, he is.
Right. But my budget helps me to recognize I can't afford that this month. And that's not that I don't have the money that I could spend for it, but that money is already allocated to investment, or that money is already allocated to saving. So I just can't take that. And that's the level of commitment you're going to have, because your goals must be bigger than just the small things that's going to pull you forward. And because we have goals that should pull us forward, we don't allow this to distract us. All right. So that's brought us to the end of this evening. Now, if you want to continue to follow us, please, you got to remember to subscribe to our Facebook page and YouTube page so that you could be notified when we're going live. You could also go to the website, which is vividresolutions.com, and you could keep track of the blogs. If you have any questions, feel free to send us a message, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Take care until the next
Okay,
video.
thank you, and goodbye, everyone.